All right, so today we have a special episode of the Mentor Minutes podcast. I'm Jared.
And I'm Jay.
And we have with us guests today from the Board Game Snobs. We've got Gaby and Jerry.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
I'm here as well.
Yes. So we are going to be discussing with him discussing with these guys about their podcast, and also the reason we're meeting with them here is through the connection of the Gateway Network that we are both part of. Now, we sort of joined this through the Gamecasters because they kind of started this whole network deal to bring content creators together who are board gamers and create board gaming content. So for this, of course, we're doing a video and audio because we're streaming this to like Google and Apple or whoever.
Yep.
But there is going to be the video version as long as the video turns okay.
Right. You'll be YouTube stars in no time, guys.
Yeah.
Great. That's the only thing we've been lacking.
I've got warrants.
That's not going to help out. So why don't we just start out with bios? You guys want to just kind of tell us, what part of the country you live in, besides kind of board game content. What do you guys do for a living outside of talking about board games and everything else under the sun on your podcast?
You go first, Gaby. You're much more interesting.
No, no. I wanted you to go first. Who are you and what do you do?
and you're going to be doing that accent the entire video. Love it.
Me and Jerry are very close. He's just across the river. I'm in Northeast Texas. And Jerry is in Southeast Texas, but I guess he can say that.
Southeast Oklahoma.
Southeast Oklahoma, that's right. McCurtain County, if you like weed. But I am right now, well, see, this is something we have yet to discuss on our own podcast, but I've switched jobs a couple times here recently. I was a truck driver. But when you're a large man and overweight as I am, you're generally of the high blood pressure crowd. And to have a commercial driver's license, they require your blood pressure to be 140/90. Mine was just a little bit over that. It was a little bit over that. And they got all freaked out. And like, no, you need to get that down in 3 months. So I told my wife that I needed to get that down, and I can't get that down as I continue to drive a truck, because when I drive truck, I'm just eating fried burritos and sucking on Dr. Pepper all day. That's what I do. So I told my boss I'm going to quit. I need to get my health better. And he's like, all right. So I did quit, and I lost about 40, 50 pounds. Started working at Walmart, walking a lot. Like 7 to 9 miles. Those Walmart folks, they walk a lot. I was a personal shopper.
I was going to say you probably walk a mile a day.
Yeah, I don't know how accurate it is. I looked at my iPhone thing and it said like it would always say like 7 to 9 miles. I'm like, is that right? And I talked to Bubba, another friend of ours. He's like, oh yeah, you walk a lot. But then that it's Walmart. It's not really a career, and it doesn't pay that great. So a buddy of mine from trucking called me back up. I was like, hey, you want to start driving again? Because I had gotten my certificate back in. So he's like, do you want to drive again? I was like, yeah, we're good. Sure, I'll drive again, because I had got my certificate back because my blood pressure was good again. So I'm driving again at the moment. But I hate to define myself as a truck driver because, there's certain cliches that go along with that. But
and mostly, you meet them all.
Well,
I kind of expected your hat. I kind of expected your hat to have like the Coke bottles, Coke cans on the side with a straw, that you'd have hands-free drinking.
Well, perhaps you remember the movie with Sylvester Stallone, and he would, turn his hat backwards, when he's ready to go.
Over the top.
That movie? Over the top. When you could win a arm wrestling contest by simply moving your fingers atop your thumb. Who knew?
I don't think you could win an arm wrestling contest, though.
I am very weak. I can win leg wrestling. I'm a leg wrestler from way back. I have powerful quads. I have powerful quads.
Show them your calves. I want everybody to see. I mean this. Gaby's calves. Gaby wears a lot of shorts. So that's even in the winter.
I'm a shorts guy.
Gaby's calves are this. The circumference is amazing. He has calves that would make a bodybuilder jealous. Every day is leg day.
Well, I mean, when your legs are carrying 350 pounds, every day is leg day. But yeah, other than that, I mean, we enjoy board gaming. I have a wife and a goddaughter I live with. You know, just I don't know. I never know what to say when people tell me. It's why I'm terrible at job interviews. Would you hire me right now? No, nobody would hire me.
Oh, no. I mean, we've already got Brussels sprouts. We got like thigh muscles. I mean, it's just
powerful quads.
It's going downhill.
Powerful quads. Go, Jerry.
Oh, me?
Yes.
Okay.
You're clearly a pianist.
A what?
A pianist.
No. How dare you, sir? That's my wife's piano, not mine. But I do like to, anytime I have to utilize the camera, do it in my living room. So the piano's back here. I kind of like to have things scattered about to indicate that I am a man of culture.
Books strewn about.
Books. I just happen to have, yes. I just happen to have my reading here, Last of the Mohicans. Oh, excuse me. But no, in terms of occupation, I'm an RN and a paramedic and a firefighter. My kind of part-time or hobby is still teaching for the fire department and working some for them. But currently I'm a registered nurse and I work for a very large home health company in southeastern Oklahoma. I'm an administrator for them. So lots of boring paperwork, but yeah, not super exciting. COVID's made it slightly more dangerous and exciting and interesting, but other than that, so I mainly the healthcare field in terms of
you guys probably get together and play games together, given the distance, though. I mean, you still, I imagine, I mean, you got to get together and play.
Yeah, you just crossed the river, it sounds like, right?
Yes, I am. I do have a passport. I can cross over into Texas or northern Mexico, as we call it. Texans and Oklahomans are known for not getting along, mainly because Oklahomans know how to drive and play football, and Texans just drive down the middle of the road and claim to be America's team. But yes, Gaby is one of the few Texans that I tolerate. And I don't think he's a true Texan, actually. I think he was not born in Texas.
I was born in Arkansas, raised in Oklahoma, moved to Texas.
Yeah, we don't talk about Arkansas, our cousins over the other. Yeah, but they're a whole another breed.
I live in North Carolina, but I was born in Texas.
What part? What part of Texas?
Plano.
Oh no,
yeah.
Plano, Texas.
That's too much of a city. It doesn't.
Plano, Texas. That's where we go to shop. When we need to go to Costco, we go to Plano, Texas, and Whole Foods. That's where the Whole Foods is at. And I walk in and they sneer at me and they're like, "Clearly, you have not been eating many Whole Foods." I'm like, "Well, that's just the way it is." My wife does.
Early 90s when I lived, I don't think we had a Costco.
Maybe it's
so I was not born in Texas. I've never lived in Texas. So, but I have spent some time in Texas for work. So that's as close as I can get. Sorry. So how did you guys meet? And how did you start to talk about board games and decide that you're going to do a podcast? You guys have been going strong since what, 2017 with the podcast?
2017.
How did the whole thing start?
Through a mutual friend named Bubba. I knew Bubba. And Bubba, of course, everybody, if you live in Texas, you know Bubba. He mentioned one day that he knew somebody that enjoyed playing, quote unquote, those weird board games that I like to play. And he introduced me to Gaby, and we had this very awkward conversation regarding our collection of board games until finally we met up one day.
Hey, Carcassonne, huh? Well, see you later.
It was actually Cosmic Encounter. And we got together one day, and that was it. It was having somebody who was as deep into the hobby as I was, and there just weren't that many people in this area. There's not even our local. Back in that time, the local board game store was in Plano, Texas. So like 2 hours away. And so there was nobody around who really even had heard of the games that I like to play. And so it was out of necessity that we got together. And from that, a beautiful friendship grew until one day I woke up and declared that we could start a podcast that would grow us into the titans of the board gaming industry and be able to overthrow the Dice Tower.
Right. And your plan B is what?
Still working on that. Then he hooks us up to the Gateway Network. I said Dice Tower, and he goes, "How about Gateway?" I'm like, "What? I don't know who that is."
Now, we've had some incidences with the Dice Tower, so I don't think we could actually be on the Dice Tower Network. So,
are you on there?
I don't know.
Oh, that's like I'm picturing like a back alley brawl. You like knock off Tom's hat. Somebody kick somebody else.
I actually made a cameo on a Dice Tower video back in the day.
Again, yes, everybody
knows. Yes. Everybody knows.
Every chance he gets. Here we go. Get ready for this story.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell it. If people want to know,
we don't know the story, so
Oh, it was simply back in the day. Sam Healy, remember Sam Healy, the throw punch guy. He was doing a vlog at the Board Game Geek Convention, and I happened to be in the background talking with my hero, Jason Levine. One of the few people on the Dice Tower who has a really refined opinion about board games. And I told Jason Levine that I thought that his opinion out of everybody on the Dice Tower, his was the one I truly appreciated and aligned with mine. And so Jason then made sure that I said that into the camera, standing next to Sam Healy. And so that was my 15 minutes of fame. And that really inspired me to know, you know what? These guys bleed too. We could probably overthrow them. So I encouraged Gaby to start this podcast. And in the beginning, I had great aspirations for it and tried my best to try to make it a really quality production. And then it just I realized that sometimes you just need to drink and talk about stuff and just see what happens. And so that's where we're at. And so the podcast as a whole, it doesn't have the same direction as it used to, but I think that it's much better than what it would have been.
Yeah, I was going to say that you talk a lot about a lot of things. You talk about film, you talk about other things in other industries, and it's definitely, to me, evolved into a lot more of sort of a conversational type of podcast where you get a little bit of inside look into your personalities, and I think that's really engaging personally. Have you found that sort of shift has grown your audience? Are you getting people? Do you feel like that are maybe not even board gamers that are listening to your podcast?
I think the greatest compliment we have ever gotten about our podcast came from a lady who sent us an email basically speaking about how her husband's a board gamer and she is not. And that out of all the podcasts and YouTube videos that he often watches, the only one that she listens to is ours. And that really was early on, and that kind of tuned us into why would people listen to this podcast if you're not a board gamer? Mm-hmm. And we found that when you tie yourself down to just talking about one specific thing and just focusing on the board games as a whole, you do run the risk of having a very niched audience, but at the same time, it's hard to make your personality shine through. Like, some board game media people, they wear hats and, I'm not saying any names. They do things to try to bring out their personality, that they do little jokes and skits and things of that nature. And that's fine. I'm not knocking that. That's the way to go. But sometimes the best way to really let the audience get to know you is through having conversations. And Gaby and I, Gaby's a true conversationalist. I mean, he is easy to speak to, and at the same time,
I'm a good listener because Jerry talks a lot.
He can derail a conversation. He can derail a conversation in an interesting way. And so that's kind of the formula, is that I try to sound as eloquent and as smooth as possible and try to make coherent thoughts, while Gaby tries to derail that, and I respond to that. And
it's like a straight man. I get it.
Right. And then sometimes I flip the script. I drink a little bit occasionally, as I do now. And sometimes I express thoughts that are somewhat inappropriate. And that makes for an enjoyable podcast. So that's the two suggestions I have. One, get somebody who will interrupt you, and two, drink a lot. Excellent podcast.
Well, that's what happened was like, part of it happened to do with me, like as a truck driver. It's like, man, I listen to I was into podcasts. I was listening to like all the board gaming podcasts. I mean, I was just tearing them up 12 hours a day driving down the road. And I noticed that a lot of them, while very informative, and I bought a lot of games based on the things they said, lots of them I would try out, and I'm like, man, these guys are dull. Like, they're telling me about the game, but the way they're doing it is dull. Yeah. And and it's like they're not letting their personality shine through. Because when I listen to a podcast, I get attached to the personality. I get attached to the person, and they make, and also I like to laugh. So if you're able to make me laugh, I'm sold. You got me. I'm a loyal customer for a long time.
Jay.
He likes to laugh at me. That's true.
He's the clown.
So yeah, we just
so you've got the podcast, you've got the Facebook page. Have you thought about branching out into any other media like YouTube or anything else, or is your plate full enough as it is?
It's pretty full. I mean, the main thing is that both Jerry and we both work super full time. We both have. He's got 2 kids and a wife. I'm married and got a family, and I mean, I know a lot of other board gamers like that too. And oftentimes I wonder, I'm like, how do they manage that and also produce all this content? I don't know. When I'm tired, I come home from work. I mostly just want to sit in my chair, have a drink, and watch some TV. Jerry will come home probably and sit in his chair, drink, but he'll play games. I don't know what he does with his family. I've never met his family except over the internet. Little Jack. I don't think they exist. He tells me they exist, but I don't know.
I keep my kids away from. I keep my family away from Gaby.
But I would like to get into YouTube, because it seems YouTube is the way to go. That just seems like, and I feel like at a certain point, if you want to expand, you kind of need to get into YouTube and get a different audience, and because that would drag them towards the podcast, and then you could intermingle there. But YouTube costs. I mean, I could do it with my iPhone and what I've got, I guess. But it's like I have big ideas, and I'm also lazy. So those two things don't really go together. So
yeah, you need an execution man. That's right.
I need somebody to do the things that I have ideas for. It's like, and then also it's like, well, what can we do that has not been done yet? You could do a format that is tried and true, but it's like, oh, I want to do something original. Well, it's like even sometimes I will think of something, like I'll think of a joke and I'll be like, oh, that's a good one. I will Google the joke.
So you could do the hat thing. I hear that's pretty good.
Yeah, the hats, I agree. That's
I'm trying it right now. I never wear a hat, but I'm trying to cover my face. But like sometimes I will literally think of a joke, because I'll just be driving down the road. I'm like, oh, that's a good one. Oh, I come up with some gold, solid gold, baby. And I Google it, and literally somebody has already thought of that same joke. I'm like, oh, well, that's not original.
Like no original. Yeah.
It's hard to come up with an original idea.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard it said before that, you've either got to be first or really original to make a difference. And a lot of times, the people who are sort of
or really, really good at what you do.
Or very, very good at what you do. And a lot of times it's those people who have been first, that have really caught the audience. And you may see that, some of the top names, some of them are absolutely highly qualified and do awesome, amazing work. And some others, I think they've just had that, 10 years of following too, so it's hard to jump in. I think the good thing with board game content is, it is a niche market. So, you can get,
comparative to other industries, there's not as many like people doing it.
And the audience is smaller.
Yeah.
So the
I think there's more opportunity, right? Even though you could probably name 20 different, creators that are doing this sort of thing. But if you think of like video games, there's like millions.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I think in what Gaby was bringing up, just the various types of media that you can do. We have mainly focused on the podcast because that's the easiest for us to do, and it's the most enjoyable for us. And yes, we have a Facebook group, and we have about 300 members in our Facebook group. And what I have found is the people who listen to our show are a different type of audience in comparison to the same type of audience that is generally listening to the bigger board game media, like the Dice Tower or others. Our fans tend to interact with us on a more personal level, and of course we interact with them and we get to know them, and of course we have met several of our listeners at conventions and otherwise. I think that kind of breeds and fosters a community a little bit more, and really once you get to a certain size, once that group you kind of go mainstream, there's like a point to where now people are they're listening to you more. Your people are following you on Twitter and Instagram and so forth and so on. You really open yourself up to not just criticism, but really having to be concerned about just every little thing that you say in connection with the games, the reviews, and everything else. And it does take away of the close community aspect of your group. The people that listen to our show and send us emails and we respond to them and back and forth, we feel like that's kind of our people. That's our community. And we enjoy those interactions. I think if we got larger and started doing YouTube videos and other things, that we would lose that personal touch. And really, at some point, you have to ask yourself, why are you doing this? And I don't think I want to quit my job and be some sort of content creator or be in the board game industry. I simply like drinking a beer. And
where do you guys see, your podcasts going forward? Where would you like to be in 5 years with the Board Game Snobs?
To be honest, I would be completely satisfied if absolutely nothing changed. If we didn't gain one listener or one more download or anything else in the next 5 years was just exactly the same as it is.
Devastated.
I know Gaby.
I'm a stat checker. Every day I check them stats. I need them clicks. Give me them clicks.
Yeah. You have a quest for fame. I get it.
I need that fame.
Gaby has it in his head that validation means something. And it
those anonymous to me clicks.
I need them.
To me, the fact that we have so many listeners, that have listened to every single one of our episodes, or ones that have said, I've been listening since almost like your fourth or fifth episode, I started listening, or they've gone back and we get so many emails from people saying, I just discovered your podcast and I started listening to the back catalog. I don't know people. I don't do that. I don't find a podcast and go, let's go backwards. Right. But people do.
And you can see the progression towards alcoholism that takes place.
You can see this roller coaster ride that takes place. And it's true.
Like you're just ruining lives.
So when you started a few years ago, you weren't even drinking.
No, I was a water man only.
When we started a few years ago, the first, and I'm going to say, I think it's about our first 20 episodes, I was so uptight about everything. Gaby was just constantly griping about how I wanted everything to be just so, and let's cover this and let's edit this out.
Well, you were wanting to follow the format. There's a
awful.
format.
Right.
It wasn't until this thing of let's just have fun with this, and Gaby just insisted, let's just be laid back, be ourselves, and just let's do our thing. That the podcast just took a turn immediately, and we realized this is where it's at.
You're
this
welcome.
is what we should have been doing,
And
and
it's relatable.
It is. And so to answer your question, in 5 years from now, I think the impact that we've had to me has been, and people often don't mention this. I don't know why I don't hear this talked more about, but there's something very interesting about looking back and hearing not just yourself, but where you were in life at that time. And I think it would be very interesting that 5 years from now to have this catalog of very personal conversations and fun and just events that took place, and to be able to go back and listen to it. I mean, I have old pictures, of my grandfather when he was in World War II, or pictures of my dad, and just various things that you can look back to think that this podcast might be just a little bit of insight into Gaby and I and what we went through, and just the times that we shared together. That if we stopped now, that a decade from now, my kids could pick this up and go, this is what my dad was doing. This is we don't know exactly what was going on, but once a week, my dad went over to his best friend's house.
Well, they're archived
and
conversations.
Yelled at each other, and to be able to sit and listen to that. Yes, and there's something so charming about that makes me wonder.
Right.
If
we are charming.
I had that,
our conversations are charming, and we have now archived conversations. You know how many of those I wish I had previously? Not many.
Yes, yes.
It's like a living diary.
It's like this is your scrapbook diary.
I don't. If I could have something similar to that with of conversations between my dad and his friend, of just them laid back talking about stuff, what you wouldn't give for that. And there's something just interesting. And also at times I will randomly pick an old episode that's over a year old and just listen to it. And I can't remember what I said on the podcast the week later. I have no clue. I'm blanked on it. But to listen to something
that's called called blackouts.
That's actually part of alcoholism.
You might want to seek a medical.
Who are you guys? Actually, I have no clue who I'm talking to. This is
it's normal.
How did y'all meet, Jason and Jared?
Jay and Jared.
Yeah. So you want me to,
Jay, why don't you?
So,
share?
Really, the way we met is I just I lived up in New England for years, and just moved to the area in North Carolina here in July, and middle of the pandemic, just looking for gamers around. The only person I knew here was my brother, and so I just started to I think it was BGG maybe.
Yeah.
Just was kind of messaging people that were in the area, if they're interested in playing games or, doing stuff online or whatever. And Jared responded, and we just sort of clicked when we started talking. We did probably like an hour phone call, just kind of giving our background.
Pretty late too.
Yeah. And so we said, we're going to have to get together when we felt, comfortable doing that. And just sort of struck up a friendship at first. And Jared already had his YouTube channel, and, he was already doing a lot of tutorial videos and things like that. And
mentoring Meeple.
Yeah. and for me,
especially the naughty ones.
I think like offhandedly, I just kind of said, I think it'd be cool to do a podcast or something like that. And Jared said, well, I've been thinking about other ways to expand the channel. And so we just said we'd give it a try. And so we ended up doing like a YouTube /podcast. Right now it's just, what are we, 12 episodes in? Something like that?
Something 12 or 13.
Yeah. And it's like an every other week thing. It's fun. We're doing, top 10 list, very, common format and stuff. But, for me, I didn't really have any aspirations outside of just, I love games and love talking about games. And so whether we, how we evolve this, we're not sure yet, but we're having fun doing it. So
yeah, I recall I was at the beach when I first saw his message, because we were out, and I logged onto my computer, got a message on BGG from someone, and he had said like, hey, we seem to have a lot in common. I just moved here, and like he has.
It was an accidental Match.com thing, but I don't know how it got to him.
His first text was you
He's
up,
like, I've got,
and you were like, where'd you go?
WYD.
I firmly believe there could be a website where people just like take a picture of their shelf, of their board game shelf, and it scans it, and it's like a Tinder for board gamers, and that matches you up.
Oh, hang on.
Like you could tell.
Hang on.
$1 million idea.
Sorry,
Yeah,
just
they've got.
that one more time.
And what should it be called?
They've got. Well, no,
Putting that out there, Jerry. Be quiet.
It's like, oh, they've got Splendor. Oh, no. You know, it's like you just kind of know. And I'm very
enjoy walks to Catan, hiking with my scythe in Grand Austria.
Yeah,
it's the, and I'm petty about this, but when I'm on Board Game Geek, if I'm just trading a game or something with somebody, I always look at their profile. And if they rate games, I'm very judgmental by what people rate as like a 10 or a 9. Like I look at what games they like, and I'm like, oh, this person has no taste.
So if they rate Splendor a 10, you're like, we're done here.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
That's funny.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's basically
I have harsh
met.
opinions. I'm opinionated.
I just called him though, like as soon as I read the email, because I was like, "Yeah, that sounds awesome. We should get together." He answered the phone. That was it.
That was it.
Well, that's all it takes. So y'all are 12 episodes into Meeple Mentor. So you're putting this on your channel as Meeple Mentor, but like as something different.
So we are calling the podcast Mentor Minutes, and we simultaneously publish the audio to podcast servers.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the video portion that you can watch on YouTube, and then there's the audio only on wherever you want to stream it.
Yeah.
Highly suggest to YouTube. I think we're a group of at least semi-decent looking individuals. You should see our face.
Oh
yeah.
Our audience will be you will have I suspect you'll have a great increase in views on this particular videos, because many people who have never seen us will want to go, what do these people actually look like when they speak? And they'll I think we kind of match up exactly how they think.
You'll see Jerry's luxurious hair, and I'm covering my baldness with my hat, so they'll never know.
That is quite the hair.
Well, now this isn't your first. Is this your first ever YouTube appearance?
Yes. Besides that one time on the Dice Tower, I have I've never shown my face in public. I've kind of kept that, JD Sal.
So you wear a bag when you go outside?
I was going to say it's like one of those 1819 like death masks things.
Yeah, people don't recognize me. I
plague mask. Yeah,
I actually interacted with a designer, and I guess I had a picture somewhere on Facebook or something, and I met him at BG at the BGG convention, and when he come up, I shook his hand, and he paused for a long time. He says, "You look nothing like I thought you would." Like,
it's the
for
glasses.
Some reason,
you're like Clark Kent.
Completely differently. And he says, "I thought I saw a picture of you somewhere." He says, "But I would not have recognized you." I was like, "My job here is done."
You take off your glasses. They're like, "It's Superman." Oh my God.
If I only take my glasses off when I'm thinking.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
I shower with my glasses on.
Where'd he go? Oh, there he is.
Well, you wouldn't want to scare your wife or anything.
No, she wouldn't recognize me.
Well, so you just mentioned it. You're very judgmental about games. So I guess give us a couple of your maybe a couple favorite games.
Give us an idea of who you are as a board gamer.
Yeah. What kind of games do you like, and what are a few favorites?
That kind of goes into the origin of being called the Board Game Snobs. Jerry was always very critical of games, and his wife basically told him, "You're a board game snob," because we did find that, well, I guess it's just people nicer than us. Like, they play a game and they're like, this one wasn't for us, but if you like this type of game, they give all these caveats so that they don't really say anything harsh about the game. Whereas we're like, Splendor, It's a bad. Don't play Splendor. Don't play Splendor. It's a very popular game, but we don't like it. So then we would tell you a game that we do like over that, or we just play a game and we're like, no, we didn't like it. It's a bad game. But most people in this, well, I'll say most, a lot of people in this, the board game community, they don't want to be mean, and that's understandable. Not that we're being mean, but I think it's my opinion. I can have my opinion, so we'll state it. And in those opinions, our Jerry's wife said, "You're a board game snob." And so thus the name of our podcast was born, even though with the evolution of the podcast, we're like, we should have been called probably like,
paying her royalties, right?
We should have been called the off-topic snobs or something, but once you pick a name when it's out there on Apple, what are you going to do? So we're still the board game snobs.
Right. Too lazy to rebrand.
Yeah, it's too late.
In terms of like our favorite games, I could go down my top 10 list easily, but there are games that I think that are unappreciated that are really good, or games that just get overshadowed. Like, for instance, consistently one of my favorite game has been Brass. Either renditions of it, whether it's the Lancashire or the Birmingham, they're both excellent games. And that game is certainly one that's not underappreciated nor unrecognized. I mean, both of those are in the top 30, I think, on BGA, so they're well known. That's the type of game I tend to enjoy. I am shocked that even though I see that it's gotten a lot of respect here lately, but Yokohama was one that slid under a lot of people's radar. That is just a phenomenal game. And one that has a lot of replayability, just scales well, and I mean, just a beautiful implementation, and something you don't generally see with a lot of board games. The resource management, the engine building, that type of thing. We have often touted games that get overlooked, or at least we feel like they're overlooked. It's ones that aren't ranked very high. One we were vocal about was Barony, and it's one that was done by the designer who, strangely enough, did Splendor. I don't know what his
Mark Andre.
I feel so bad for him, because Splendor is a very obviously a mass market game, a game that it's fine. I despise it. It's mind numbing to me, but I see why people like this. It's like, it's like it's more of an activity than an actual game. Where he made Barony, and Barony to me is an instant classic. If this game had been out just a few years prior, I think it was in 2014, I think is when it came out, somewhere around there. If this game was just a few years prior to that, this would have been up there with like Alhambra and some various other classics. It is an amazing game. Not just
so I've heard of Barony, but like I said, I didn't. You're right; it's not talked about much. And I just played Majesty by the same designer, which is a super light game. But the reason I didn't play Barony is because I never heard anybody talking about it. So now
the guy can't
I'm
catch
intrigued.
a break. The guy can't catch a break. Literally, Barony is up there in my book with like chess and checkers. It's like a classic, and it looks like a classic game with chunky wooden pieces, a beautiful board that's modular, like these little not triangular shaped spaces, hexagons that you mix up and put together. Scales with the game changes with every player you add. The board gets a little bit bigger. The type of game kind of tightens up, and every move you make, every decision is important. You will win or lose this game, and when it's over, if you've won it, the person next to you is saying one more turn and I would have won it, and this guy's going, yep, one more turn. I mean, you lose by just a hair's breadth on every one of the games. It's very simple. The mechanics are just very basic, but yet at the same time there's so much strategy to it. I absolutely love it, and it's a game
Majesty of the Realm, like that should be the new Splendor. Like it's a light game that I prefer 1,000% to Splendor. I just like Majesty of the Realm. I had it for a while, But yeah, as far as I don't know what else he's made. I know he made Splendor, Majesty, and Barony, and yeah, Barony is good. It's 2-player. It goes to 4. It has an expansion that goes to 5. We've never played that, but it's an amazing game to us, and it's so simple. It's literally you got like 3 or 4 moves that comes with a nice player aid for you. You move your items, your horse or person, whatever it is. There's different ways to move, but I can't say enough good about it. But yet, it's like it got a reprint here like last year sometime, and it's just if you get a chance, we suggest playing Barony.
Have you played this one?
I've not.
Okay. We like Euro games too, so I mean,
I'm what you call an Omni Gamer.
Yeah,
I like a lot of different types of games that aren't just like one thing. I'm not super picky. I wouldn't call myself a snob, but there are certainly games that I don't like or games that are not
like more opinion games. Yeah, I'm very much like I ran a meetup for several years, and so any games that I would pick that would work well with a particular audience, that would kind of stand out to me as great for them, even though it maybe wasn't great for me. So I've been a lot more accepting of games because I was buying oftentimes for other people. It seemed.
So you're indecisive and unrefined, is what you're saying. What?
Yeah,
give me an idea.
I think that's a pretty attractive property to me.
give me an idea of the game.
It comes through in our top 10 lists how different he and I are.
Very, very much so.
Give me an idea of a game that you don't like.
A game that a game that I don't like. So Splendor is not a game that I would ever choose to play myself. I think it's great to introduce some people to the hobby, but I'd typically pick like a Majesty or Century Spice Road over it as part of that kind of thing. Another one that I think people love is Catan, and I give it all the credit in the world for bringing those types of games over. But to me, I find no joy in playing that game at all.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like I said, it's fun for other people, but I really don't. Compared to modern games, it's not something I would consider a great game, in 2021.
For me, like I don't like Munchkin or a lot of games that have Take That, like Villainous. I just didn't enjoy it. Also, generally, I don't care for trick-taking games.
Yeah, he does not like trick-taking games. That's
no.
true.
I don't
like that either. Yeah,
we played the Crew.
I have
loved it, and I was like, I'm done.
I have the Crew and Skull King, both super highly touted, and I'm like, it's Spades. I've played Spades. Let's just play Spades. We're going to do this.
Spades and Hearts.
Pirates.
They should not allow you to buy trick-taking games unless you're over 60.
There you go.
That's the crowd that likes it. When you go, it's like when you are checking out and you have a trick-taking game, they should be like, so are you buying Depends as well? I mean, where's your Bengay? What prove your age to us? There's no need.
The only trick-taking game. There's a trick-taking game I grew up playing, and it's 42 on dominoes, and it is the best trick-taking game. It is the best. I will play 42 on dominoes, but it's basically like Crazy Eights. It's basically Spades. You have a partner. You're bidding on a certain amount. I mean, it is Spades with dominoes, but I prefer it over Spades. I prefer 42. But it's a dying game. I never hear anybody talk about 42. Have either of you ever heard of 42?
No.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe it's even a Southern game. I don't know, but it's a trick taking. You bid 42 is like that's the maximum bid because all the dominoes, counting your 5s and 10s. Like the 2-3 is a 5. You got your 5-5. Anything that is multiples of 5. And then the trick itself is a point. So the lowest you can bid is 30. The highest you can bid is 42. Then like everybody you play with has their own set of rules. It's like, I bid 2 more. It's crazy. It's one of those games that people make up their own
house rules and stuff.
House rules, variances. But man, I grew up playing that game. I wasn't really even into board games. Like, I mean, I played Monopoly, but I was more of like a gin rummy 42. Like those were the kind of games I really liked playing growing up that got me into board gaming. I didn't really care for Sorry. I didn't really care for Monopoly, Aggravation, Connect Four. It's like, yeah, I'll play them, but Gin Rummy,
you
like,
you remember Perfection?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the game that gives all kids anxiety.
Yeah, that's how
Yes.
ADD. Instant ADD.
Yeah, those are the games that I would play them because they're there. Clue was okay, but it's like I liked the ones where you actually kind of had to like plan things out, like even Rummy or Gin Rummy, whatever we want to call the different, or, you know, there's all kinds of Gin Rummy. It's like, when do you lay your hand down? Do you keep drawing? All this type of stuff. And 42, there's lots of bluffing in it. You can depend on your partner. I don't know. I can go on and on about 42, but it's a game literally nobody knows about.
Yeah.
All right.
No. Let's see. I know. So I was going to say one last. If you wanted to let our YouTube audience know how to find you guys, where would you direct them to go? Not to your house or anything. You know, the podcast.
Yeah.
Well,
Northeast Texas. Fly over. Look for the local meth lab. We're probably nearby that.
Look for the smoke.
Board Game Snob. We used to have a boardgamesnobs.com, but it's now defunct because they required you to write reviews. Ain't nobody got time for that. Podbean, our service is our podcast service on Podbean. So it's boardgamesnobs.podbean.com. But literally, you can go to any podcast aggregator, type in Board Game Snobs, separate letters. You probably would find it all together. I never understand. Is board game one word or two? What is it?
It's both.
Yeah,
it's both. It's both.
I prefer it as one, but
I think it's contextual. It depends on how you're using it.
Yeah.
Over 45, obviously, you have a Facebook. And so if you're on Facebook, you can come to our Facebook group by searching for it and request to be let in, because I'm the administrator and I have to let you in.
He's the administrator of the facility.
It's snobby.
Posh. Yes.
Well, no, it's like the dark web. It's not anything board game related. It's just randomness things that we decide that we're going to talk about or show, and it's really scary in a lot of ways, because it's just we have just as many people join that didn't leave. Like they realize this is not about board games. This is I've come to the wrong place.
Well,
but
so
some are thoroughly entertained.
I've listened to the most recent 2 episodes, and there wasn't as much board game talk as I was expecting.
I told him that.
Well,
for the name Board Game Snobs, it just led me to believe that there were going to be board games.
There is some false advertisement there, because not only do we allude to the idea that we might mention board games, but we also give the idea that we might review one. I think that part of the lie is that I think that really draws people in. You expect one thing and you get something else. That's us in a nutshell. We occasionally
that's why I said we kind of stuck ourselves with the Board Game Snobs, but like, now we're more banter than anything. And like a banter is a genre of podcast. And everybody says they have banter, and that is the format. It's like, oh, what you been up to, Johnny? Oh, well, I've been playing a few games. Oh, what you been playing, Johnny? And they talk about their games, and they go into their topic of the evening. Whereas we just rattle off randomness after randomness after randomness. And we usually try to squeeze a game in. Jerry is all about, we're going to talk about a game. We got a game we're going to talk about. And we try to like keep up with some of the new hot games that are out there. But I mean, mostly it's just
like 42.
Yeah. I take 42 seriously. We're going to make 42. We're going to do a whole podcast on 42. Just saying.
I have no interest in slapping.
We're never going to come back on our podcast.
I'm totally going to continue.
But we're on Instagram, Twitter, all the things. We have yet to get to TikTok. It's like TikTok's too late. It's too late for TikTok. I'm going to wait till the next one.
It's not too late. I've been researching it, and I've been on the TikTok. That's where you lip sync to like songs. I've yet to do one yet, but I think we could really. There's an opening there. Okay. We could do that. You do karaoke, so you could act like you're singing and dancing and make it board game related somehow.
This is the thing. This is one of the coolest. I don't know what movie this is from. It's from a movie, but I found it here. You were asking about, the Facebook group and the way to get in. Back in the day, you watch these spy movies and they're like, oh, the eagle has landed. I saw some movie. Maybe it's John Wick. I don't know. But it says fate whispers. No, it's Mission Impossible. That's what it is. He's like, fate whispers to the warrior, you cannot withstand the storm. What does he say?
I am the storm.
Oh, that is so freaking awesome. Oh my goodness. You say that to us in the Facebook group.
No, Mission Impossible's okay, but it's not my favorite spy movie ever. Any of them. They're not really spy movies. They're just action.
So if you want a taste for what the Board Game Snobs podcast is you just heard it.
Well, no, it's just, people, I think that part of, if you're going to get into any type of content creation, I think that you must be a strongly opinionated person, because that's what people like. They like to hear somebody express an opinion that, even though they may be wrong about, they're super feel like passionate, they're right. Yeah. They're passionate about it. And if you don't have any passion, then you're just another person on the street yelling out. You're just giving me nowhere to go. Like,
you're just a commercial.
Yeah, you're just there's no point.
Well, I would say that you don't necessarily have to be opinionated, but you do need to have passion, and I think those can be different.
I agree. Jerry's very opinionated about everything. He's got opinion about everything. Yeah, I don't care that much, but the things I do care about, I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about 42 and Mission Impossible and Fast and the Furious. I'm there for it.
I am strangely opinionated about things that I'm not passionate about. I don't know what that says about me, but
there's some sort of psychosis happening there.
I might be a narcissist. I feel like I don't know I don't know a lot about this subject. I don't know a lot about this subject, but for some reason, I feel as if my opinion is valid. What is that? That's
Case in point. Case in point. I told this to my wife the other day. I was sitting there just watching King of Queens. I enjoy King of Queens. Jerry calls me. What are you doing? I said, watching King of Queens. Oh my God, I can't stand that show. Oh my God, that's not funny. I didn't laugh. I was like, I didn't ask you. I don't care. I'm watching it. I enjoy it. Nobody asked you for your freaking opinion, but he's got strong opinions about King of Queens. Well, I like King of Queens. I thought it was funny. I like Kevin James.
It's not. It's not funny. It's amusing.
He will give you unsolicited opinions. Yeah.
That's his shtick right there.
I don't know if we're selling our podcast or not right now.
Yeah, that's your big hat. That's Jerry's hat.
I just don't
lose that hat.
I just don't know. Describe to me what's funny about Kevin James. I can't. He's just
the one to make that argument.
Yeah, he's just that show was barely amusing. The premise was what? What was the premise of the King of Queens? I have no clue.
I don't have to defend myself to you.
I'm not asking you to defend yourself.
I enjoy it.
I'm just asking questions. I'm just asking questions to let people
has to defend their opinions, Jerry.
No, I'm not. Nobody has to.
That's the whole thing. Comedy is subjective. You send me weird YouTube videos. You're like, ha ha ha. I'm like, I don't get it.
That's hilarious, and you laugh.
No.
You laugh at
having
what I
an argument over it. It's not going to convince me it's funny.
No, exactly.
This was actually not an interview. This was an intervention. So
hopefully you learned something.
We are now broken up.
All I know is all this has done is just made me dig in even more about my opinions and how I feel about things, because nobody will. If you're passionate, you'll defend your opinions.
I think that you would do well to pick one or two things in your life to be passionate about and leave everything behind, everything else.
Well,
that's the question.
What's those two things that you're going to be passionate about and leave everything else alone? Yeah, I think you might have a little too much
That's funny
to say about it.
Two things. Here they are. My thoughts and feelings.
He's left the room.
He can't beat that.
That's like the GD. The GD asking for more wishes.
Yes.
Do that.
This is how. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Oh yes.
This is why it has definitely devolved at this point.
You're a little off the rails, but you know what? It's kind of what I expected when I heard your podcast.
No, but seriously, guys, we really appreciate the chance to to interview you guys and the fact that we're the first to actually capture your rare species on camera is kind of great.
Yeah.
But we had a blast doing this. We appreciate you guys and your podcast is really enjoyable. It makes me laugh every time I listen to it.
Yeah, you guys are real funny, and you should keep it up because it is entertaining.
Yeah, so we definitely appreciate you guys being with us tonight and sharing some of your thoughts.
Thanks for having us on.
Yes,
you're welcome.
This was not as atrocious as I thought it would be. I mean,
that's good.
It's just the visual, knowing that I'll be on YouTube. This was breaking barriers. This is truly a monument
to the video. You can check the comments. You'll love it. YouTube's a beautiful place.
I do patrol comments, so I can almost assure you that I will be there commenting and defending. Yes,
commenting against everyone.
That's gonna be good.
He's the one that starts flame wars over everything.
This video will get tens of views. I assure you. Our listeners alone will ramp this up.
The official mod for just that video. All right. We'll talk to y'all later, and thanks for joining us on our Mentor Minutes podcast.
Yeah. I've been Jay.
I'm Jared.
And we've got Gaby and Jerry, and we thank you for your time, guys. Have a great night.
Bye.